Google, turn on the studio.
Hey, what's up guys? I hope you're all doing great. I thought today we could do something a little bit different, away from the scripted videos and all the B-roll, just have a casual chat, just you and me. The last time I did a Q&A with you guys was at 5,000 subscribers. That's over 4 years ago now, so that's a little bit embarrassing. I do apologize for that. I think we should do this way more often. And even though I only posted about this last night, basically on a whim, a lot of you guys came through and I have a bunch of really interesting questions. So let's get right to it.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants.
So the very first question came from Paul Rankin. He's a buddy of mine, also a fellow YouTuber. And his question is, would you have started your YouTube journey sooner if you knew what you know now? Well, the short answer here would be yes. Yes, I would have definitely started YouTube sooner. That's why I'm also telling people not to sleep on it. If you're considering starting a channel, just go ahead and do it. It's great. Having said that, life just happens the way it does. Everything happens for a reason. I really believe that. And I happened to stumble into YouTube at the beginning of the pandemic, very much down to circumstances. I haven't regretted it 1 second. It's a total grind. I still run my daytime business as well, so it's a lot, but I can honestly say that YouTube has changed my life in many, many ways, and only in a positive way. And of course, I'm not 18 years old anymore, so yeah, I definitely would have started sooner if I could. Thinking back, I don't think I realized what goes into it, but I also didn't realize how much you can get out of it. It's not just posting videos anymore for me. It's become an entire community. I've made a ton of friends along the way that have become really close friends even. Contrary to what you might expect, there isn't a whole lot of competition or animosity. In the tech space, at least, it's a really welcoming community. People are always willing to share. The pie is big enough for everyone. And that's what I love about, making tech YouTube videos. The community is 99% of it. And of course, that includes you guys as well. The second question is from Topic Ruben. Ruben also has his own YouTube channel. I'll try to link all these channels below. His question is, what do you do when one of your videos has very low views? You shoot at 24 or 30p. Okay, so those are two questions. Well, about the low views, if a video has low views, there are two things you can do. You can stress about it and obsess about it. It's not going to give you more views. Or you can just take a healthy approach, and that's what I'm trying to do. Admittedly, in the beginning, I was able to stress about these things as well. I'd be consumed by YouTube Studio, which is the back office end of YouTube, where you can check your analytics and your statistics on a video. And I would just go in there endlessly, looking at it. How many views do I have? Blah, blah, blah. That's not helpful at all. If a video stops getting views, it stops getting views. There's not much you can do about it. And that's just the way of YouTube, Some videos take off and some videos don't. I find, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, that it's especially my passion projects, the ones that I stick a lot of my time and energy in, that don't do so well. And then there's these videos that I just do spontaneously, like, oh, I have a good idea. Let's just quickly record a video. I'm not too happy about the quality. I don't feel great about uploading it. And those are always the ones that do the best. Why? I don't know. Trust me, I've been trying to understand YouTube's algorithm for years. Right when you think you figured it out, something happens and you're like, I guess I don't understand it after all. But while I don't think it's great to obsess about it, I do try and go back to the video and see, what worked and what didn't. There's a graph in YouTube Studio where you can see where there's dips and peaks, which means people clicked off or they, rewatched something. So you can kind of determine which parts of the video did better than others. But generally speaking, I think it's very, very much down to circumstances. It's timing, it's a bit of luck, and sometimes it's just YouTube's gonna YouTube, And on the question of 24 or 30p, that means frames a second. It's a very insidery, nerdy question, but I definitely shoot 24p. It gives a bit more motion blur. It gives that, cinematic feel. 30 is a bit more crisp. I think it's more popular these days, especially in short form, but personally, I still prefer the look of 24p. It just gives a little bit more of a warm feel, if you will. Then I have a question by Stephen Leatherwood, and thanks, man, not just for the question, but also for always being active on my Instagram. Very few people are. I'm not that active on Instagram myself, but he's always there to, to reply to my comments or to like some stuff. So thanks for that. I appreciate the support. The question is, what is your absolute can live without tech item? I guess you mean can't live without tech item. Honestly, it would be my iPhone. I'm not too crazy about the iPhone these days because it's been a bit stale, there hasn't been a lot of innovation, so I'm a bit bored with it. But if you would take it away from me, it would be a huge problem. My entire life is in this thing. It's even to a point where I would choose it over my MacBook. If I were presented with this Sophie's choice, if you will, give up your MacBook or give up your iPhone, I would have to give up my MacBook. Probably would lead to a bit of problems with editing, but other than that, my iPhone is what I use the most. I use it way more times a day than I would my MacBook. I have very specific tasks that I do at my computer, but everything else happens on the iPhone. And of course, also, traveling, being available, it all happens on the iPhone. So this is definitely the one thing I could not live without. Then we have a question from Lewis Toole, also a very active member of the Instagram community. This is also a two-part question. The first one is, what's your first ever gaming console as a kid? Wow, this is going to give away my age. My first real gaming console was a Nintendo 8-bit. I do remember that we had previous consoles, I think some Atari stuff or whatever, but I was really, really small, so I don't really remember. But my personal first console was a Nintendo 8-bit, but I remember loving that console very much. I would play Super Mario Brothers, Ninja Turtles, all those kinds of games. Definitely a great experience. And then the second part of the question is £1,000 limit. I guess it's a bit more than $1,000. One piece of tech to last you 5 years. That's a tough one. I was going to say MacBook, but that's not going to fly at £1,000. So I would still have to say, I guess I could say iPad. Because I already mentioned the iPhone. If I had to pick, again, I would pick the iPhone. To me, the iPad is a nice to have. It's definitely not a must have. But if we're talking about some tech item that I would keep for 5 years at around £1,000, it would be the iPad, maybe a MacBook Air. Next question is from Jacoby Wan, and please do forgive me if I mispronounce some names. Do you think we will get a new iPad mini this year? God, I hope so. I've been hoping it since the launch of the iPad mini 7. Some of you regular viewers know that I have a special place in my heart for the iPad mini 7. I wasn't really an iPad mini user until they presented it at the Apple event, the iPad mini 7. It came out of nowhere. It was not part of the rumor mill. For some reason, I was really drawn to it, so I decided to buy it, and I haven't looked back. To me, the iPad mini is the only real tablet. Everything else tries to be something else, even the iPad Pro. I mean, we have the Magic Keyboard, which is great, but what is it really trying to be? It's not really a laptop replacement. It's not really a tablet. It's too unwieldy for that. So what is it, right? The iPad mini is exactly what you think it is. It's an iPad. And that's what I love about it. It doesn't have the best screen. It doesn't have the best audio, but it's small. It works all the time. It does what it needs to do. It does iPad things. So to me, the iPad mini is definitely my favorite iPad. Would I like an upgrade? For sure. I would love an iPad mini Pro, if that makes any sense. That would be the ultimate iPad for me, meaning maybe 120 hertz refresh rate, because that is one of the real drawbacks of the iPad mini right now. Maybe a little bit better speakers, a bit better battery life, all those things. But in general, just a refresh would be amazing. It's been rumored for 2 years now at least. When are we going to get it, or if we're going to get it at all? Who knows? At this stage, we've been guessing so long that, none of the rumors can be trusted anymore. But I'll tell you one thing, when it does come out, I'm getting it. Then my buddy Abid is asking, if you were not tech savvy, which Apple products would you own? Most of them, I'd say, because I think one of the positives of Apple products is that you don't need to be tech savvy to be using them. I mean, you can definitely download some apps that require you to be tech savvy, but in general, using Apple products is very, very simple. And I know a lot of Android users or PC users would say it's too simple and that's why they don't like it, and I get that too. There's not a lot of customization. There's not a lot of stuff you can do with it. It's very fenced off, but I think that's the appeal to a lot of people that aren't so tech savvy. iPhones are probably the easiest phones to operate. So I'd probably still say the Apple products that I'm using now, I would use the same things if I weren't tech savvy. And another Instagram question from my buddy Kamar Salisi. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. We talk on Instagram all the time, but we never talk in person. So how do you pronounce a name? I'm never sure. But anyway, his question is, when are you doing a video on your workbench build? He's referring to the workbench that is behind me when I do my unboxings. I actually have 3 of those kind of in the studio. And what they are is they're HBM, I think they're called, HBM tools. It's basically the same thing as a Husky in the US. They don't sell Huskies over here, but that's the closest thing to it. They look very similar. They feel similar. Same kind of stuff. It's basically a chest of tool drawers and a pegboard, I think, behind it. And those things are perfect. At some point, some YouTuber decided to put a tool chest in his studio, and everybody must have been copying him or her, because these things can now be found on a lot of YouTube channels, and for good reason, because they're amazing. It's such a good storage space. I can keep all my knickknacks in there, all my camera stuff. Some of the workbenches will have my tech in them, you know, iPads, sleeves, all that kind of stuff. There's so much stuff coming into the studio on a daily basis that, you know, where are you going to put it all? These things are so good for that. I cannot recommend them enough. And I think they look really, really dope. All right, next up, we're moving to Twitter from Instagram. And here I have a question from Paul J, also a fellow YouTuber. Give me your favorite ever bit of tech you've used. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I mean, it's easy to say iPhone because it's the piece of tech that I use the most. But is it my favorite? I don't know. What I can tell you is that I intensely loved the Apple Watch Ultra when it came out. I wore it every day. It felt new. It looked new. I really, really liked that thing, and I was actively enjoying it. These days, I'm back to wearing mechanical watches a little bit, you know, but that's just the way I am. Sometimes I'm just a little bored with something and I need to switch it up. There's a good chance that a year from now, there's a new Apple Watch that I'm really into. I might switch it back again. But yeah, the Apple Watch Ultra was definitely a really fun piece of tech. And I do also remember the first time using an iPad Pro with a keyboard. I think that was a 2021 when the Magic Keyboard just came out. It really changed the iPad. It made it more interesting, less iPad-y. It's a bit contradictory to what I just said about the iPad Pro being confused and not really, you know, a tablet anymore. But at the time when it came out, I liked that part of it. You know, it made it into more than just an iPad. And yeah, it was fun to try and play around with it. But the thing with these kinds of products is, as soon as the new toyness wears off, you know, I don't use them that often anymore. And that means it's fun while it's a shiny new toy, but it's not so practical that I actually use it on a day-to-day basis. Jason Castellano is asking, what was some of your biggest misperceptions about being a creator before you started your channel? Whoa, that's a good one. Well, first of all, I didn't know anything about being a creator. I was a consumer of YouTube. I watched a lot of videos, especially on tech. Obviously, I've always been interested in tech. I liked, you know, what's in my tech bag and learning about new gadgets. I was a bit of a gadget buyer, I have to admit. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I realized, hey, wait a minute, I have all this extra time on my hands. What can I do with it? And I thought, why not, you know, while I'm buying all these gadgets anyway, why not make a few videos about them? I don't really know that I had any conceptions about being a creator. I just didn't know anything about it. So I just basically went into it blind. I do remember making a few mistakes or actually a few miscalculations. For instance, my first video I was filming on an iPhone. And then I thought I need a camera, because once I have a camera, my videos will look like camera quality videos. Yeah, they didn't. I figured out that I didn't know anything about cameras, so I didn't know about white balance, I didn't know about frame rates or whatever. So my first video will look completely yellow, out of focus. It didn't look good at all. Actually, the iPhone footage was way better than what I got out of that first camera. And I guess the other thing that I didn't realize, and I touched upon it earlier, is the massive community behind YouTube. So basically being a creator, you know, doing these videos, shooting them, scripting them, you know, shooting the B-roll, all that kind of stuff, editing it into a video, that's all part of being a creator. But to me, it's only the tip of the iceberg. It's the, you know, the communication with you guys, with the viewers, but also with fellow creators, people on Twitter, Instagram. The whole thing, the whole YouTube game is so much larger than just the videos. And I guess one thing that I also didn't know about is all the work that goes into finding sponsors, keeping relationships with them, trying to get sponsors that actually resonate with your audience. Yeah, basically the whole business aspect of it. I didn't really realize there was so much to it. But having said that, I gotta say I really enjoy that part of it too. There are times that it's a bit busy, that I don't really know how to do it all and I could use some help or whatever. But then I realize I'm a control freak and there's not a lot that I can give away to other people. I'm actually now working to find a second shooter that can help me, go out and shoot some videos. It's easy to film myself in a studio setup like this where, the camera is just on a tripod and, you set it and forget it. But I'd like to go out a little bit more, get away from the studio, and to film yourself outside alone is a different matter. So I am looking for a second shooter. I think I found someone. So watch this space. It's going to be a bit of a switch up in the style we do our videos. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's fun. Claudia Jurovitz, also on Twitter, is asking, how do you organize or plan your notes for new content so you won't forget and still have control over the process? Great question. Well, the way I do it, because I'm a tech reviewer, usually there's a set path in the way I do things. So first of all, you need to determine what you're going to do your next video about. Or it could be that a really interesting brand reached out with a new product and we're doing a video about that. I like to do that too. Not just the Apple stuff, but also some really interesting tech that I personally like and that I want to share with you guys. So once we have that locked in, for me, the next step would be to actually start using it. And while I'm using it, I'm writing down, oh, I like this a lot. I don't like this so much. This is too complicated, should be easier, yada, yada, yada. So I come up with a list of pros and cons or things that I like and I didn't like. And then from that, I try to write a coherent script. A lot of people do bullet points. I don't really do that. I like to script out my entire story so that it makes sense and it's coherent. English is not my first language, so it's not so easy to speak off the cuff. So I do like to script my stuff. I use a teleprompter as well. I don't read it word for word. The software that I use allows me to ad lib a little bit, and then when I get back to the script, it'll just find it and keep rolling from there. I make sure that my scripts are not written as articles, but they're written exactly the way I would speak it. So I actually say the words out loud as I'm typing them up, so that they actually sound like me. And when I'm reading my script, I'm literally just repeating the words I said out loud earlier. So yes, it's scripted, but they're definitely my words, and it just makes it a lot easier for me not to lose my train of thought and to stay coherent. Then Mike V, a very good friend of mine, what's the biggest change in your approach to content when you first started versus now? I think I'm a little bit more calculated about it. In the beginning, I would just pick a subject and just randomly scribble down some notes and just start talking to the camera until I figured out that didn't really work. What happens is I will start over again and again and again and again, and I end up with 45 minutes of footage that I then have to cut down into about 8 or 10 minutes. That's a lot of work. It doesn't really work well. It doesn't sound nice. It doesn't really flow. The minute I found out about teleprompters and I started using them, I think that's the biggest change I've made. And I think it's the one that actually helped me grow the most. I still mess up from time to time. It doesn't matter if there's a teleprompter or not. But 15 minutes is a lot less than 45 minutes, right? And then the majority of the work is just fine-tuning it and, of course, filming B-roll and making it all look sleek. And the second thing is maybe a little bit more interesting for fellow creators. I don't know. But I think the second change in my approach is to understand the value of the content and the value of you guys, of the audience. Because it's easy for beginner YouTubers to think when a brand sends you a product that they're being generous and that they're actually helping you, but it's the other way around. You're actually talking about their product to your audience and your audience trusts you. You have to earn that trust, and you can't just say, I can't just show you products that are crappy and then expect you to trust me next time, right? So when I do present a product to you guys, it's really helping the brand. So if I could give any advice to a beginner YouTuber, it would be to understand your value even when you're small, and don't think that brands are doing you a favor by sending you their product. They're getting publicity out of it, so you're helping them at least as much as they're helping you. And then there's a question by Mark Kelly. How do you manage the challenges of fatherhood while also dealing with the demands of being a content creator? So for me, there are 3 main elements in my life that take my time. First, it's my family. Secondly, there's my daytime business. And thirdly, there's YouTube. And I would say I spend equal amounts of time on my daytime business and YouTube, something that requires a lot of time management. In terms of the kids, we prepare them for school in the morning together. We have our little morning routine. And then at the end of the day, it's usually Patty, my partner, who picks up the kids, gets them home. I get in a little bit later, and then we feed the kids, put them to bed, and we have our little routine, you know? So I do try to not work late. I try to, leave the house at a normal time and be back at a normal time, kind of like office hours. There are days for sure when I'm working on deadlines that I'll be here until 1 a.m. That's just inevitable. But thankfully, Patty is very understanding. And I do have to admit that she does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to the kids. So yeah, having a partner that is understanding and that is a good mother is half the work. And then the rest of it is down to time management and stress management. And I cannot stress this enough, but if I don't go to the gym on a regular basis, I will go absolutely crazy. So the gym for me is not just fun. I mean, I love going there, but it's necessary. If I don't go there, I feel like I'm gonna explode. So going there releases all the pressure, or at least most of it, and keeps me relaxed. And then the rest of it is just time management. Probably helps a little bit that I'm a workaholic as well, so I don't mind it. I actually love working. If you want to punish me, you can put me on a beach for 2 weeks and I will go absolutely crazy. I don't like sitting still. I don't enjoy it. I just want stuff to do. So I'm in my element when I'm working. Right, now for the last question, we're going to YouTube community posts, and that is TKD Manatan. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. His question is, what's the best time to purchase a new device? I've been looking to upgrade my phone, but I don't know if I want to wait until the iPhone 16 releases, so previous iPhones will be less expensive. I get this question a lot, and my answer is the best time to buy a product is when you need it. There's always going to be something new on the horizon. There's always going to be a better, newer iPhone. There's only going to be a year in between launches. So there isn't a perfect moment. When you buy it right after launch, you'll be happy because you'll have the newest iPhone. But then 6 months down the line, you're already expecting the new iPhone, and that FOMO kicks in, right? So if you're after having the best and the newest all the time, it's a rat race and you're never going to win. So my answer to people that ask me what's the best time to buy is, when do you need it? Do you need it right now? Then buy it right now. If you don't need it, hold off, And if you're thinking about money, probably the best thing to do is buy the previous model. They tend to go down in price quite a bit when there's a new model. Maybe not on the Apple website, but if you buy third party, you'll get great deals. If you look, for instance, at a M1 MacBook Pro, which is still a beast of a computer, you can pick them up for a really good price these days. All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again sometime. Very chill video for me to do as well, so I really enjoy it. I like hearing from you guys, so thank you for everybody who sent in questions, even though it was super short notice. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me, and I hope you stick with me until we get to 1 million subscribers. Hey, a guy can dream, right?